So here's a net neutrality story that I thought was very interesting. So net neutrality is essential for the free and open internet. Net neutrality is essential for shows like this to stay in existence, for independent media to still have a seat at the table. Without net neutrality, we will lose all that. Why? Because content providers that can afford to pay the fees will have their content load faster. Content providers that can't, i.e. shows like this and other independent shows, they're going to just go away. That's what would happen without net neutrality. And you're thinking, Ron, we don't have net neutrality now. Technically, it got repealed. Yeah, it did, but people are fighting on the front lines. They're battling it out in courts. So you haven't seen the effects of a post-net neutrality world yet. And let's hope we never do. So, but here's another area where net neutrality is incredibly important. You know, it's incredibly important for our safety. And an example that's a testament to that is when Verizon was throttling the data of people fighting wildfires. Firefighters were trying to communicate. And because we live in a post-net neutrality world, Verizon was throttling their data. They were fighting wildfires. And their ability to communicate was compromised by Verizon. Fighting wildfires. Now, this was in California, too. So there's a good chance some of those people fighting those firefighters were prison labor. So they were fighting wildfires, putting their lives in danger. They were making maybe $1 a day. That's something Kamala Harris is in favor of, by the way. She likes that. She talks about how it's essential for our economy. That prison labor. And their data was being throttled by Verizon. But here's another, for instance, of why net neutrality, not only really important for our safety, it's also really important for our health. This takes us to Seattle, Washington. Let's check this out. Net neutrality is crucial for modern healthcare. And these are, I believe, some doctors that are arguing this. Oh no, these are senators and representatives Delbeni and Cantwell. The internet is such a ubiquitous part of daily life that it has become as indispensable to many people as electricity and plumbing. Yes, it is. And yet, debates over net neutrality often focus on the internet's role in our leisure time, streaming movies, for instance, or visiting a social media site. Two members of Washington's congressional delegation, along with a Democratic commissioner from the FCC, visited Harborview Medical Center on Friday to demonstrate why having unfettered internet access is as important to doctors as the utilities that make a hospital function. So it's not just streaming movies, it's not just social media, it's not just content creators, it's also the flow of information in hospitals. So Senator Maria Cantwell and Representative Susan Delbeni, both Democrats with backgrounds in the tech industry, were there to advocate for net neutrality, a set of regulation that requires internet service providers to treat all websites equally, rather than creating fast lanes for those that can afford to pay for them. Cantwell predicts growth in what's known as telemedicine, with more and more healthcare delivered by distance, and also the notion that eventually people will want more and more access through their home system. She and Delbeni worried that if laws don't ensure everyone with an internet connection has the same speedy service, advances in telemedicine could suffer and people could be in danger. The U.S. House of Representatives passed a bill 232 to 190 earlier this month, mostly along party lines, to reinstate the rules passed by the FCC in 2015. When President Donald Trump moved into the White House and was able to appoint the commission's chairman and appoint the majority of FCC seats, the Obama-era rules were quickly rescinded. At Harborview on Friday, the three politicians observed demonstrations of how healthcare providers rely on fast internet connections. Swati Serve showed how a mobile video game developed by our company Lightsprite helps people manage chronic health conditions while allowing their doctors to gather data and work with them. Matt Thorne of American Well used an iPad to connect with a primary care physician from his home in Michigan, and Dr. David Tershwell, medical director of comprehensive stroke care at UW's Medicine Stroke Center at Harborview, explained how lives are saved when doctors in rural areas can consult in real time with experts like himself who are based elsewhere. So imagine a world where we don't have net neutrality, where you're consulting with a doctor over Skype or something like that. Maybe you can't get to the doctors in a timely manner. Maybe it saves you that trip and it's better for you health-wise. And they kind of can diagnose you over Skype. Obviously, that's not acceptable in every situation. In many situations, that's not acceptable. You have to be physically present. But in some situations, it can work. And imagine your doctor has to be like, oh, wait, what internet service can you afford? How fast is your internet? Now, we have issues like that that'll happen now. I mean, spotty internet happens all the time everywhere. And that's why we need nationwide municipal broadband everywhere. But, without muddying the waters too much, imagine they have to say, oh, wait, which package do you have? Because the lowest package can't even support Skype anymore. Or what if, someone's at a smaller hospital that can't afford to pay the fees for their content to load faster for patients? So if they employ something like a video game, as mentioned in the article, or if they're using an iPad to exchange information, as referenced in the article, it doesn't go fast enough to help the patient. What if they need to transmit information regarding a surgery and they need to do it over some web network, but because they don't have the fastest package, it goes too slow and it ends up being a life or death situation for a patient? These are all the things that we need to think about in a net neutrality world. This is the reality. The reality is that hospitals may not be able to function to the best of their ability because of a loss of net neutrality. Hospitals. This isn't just, oh, you're paying more to get on Twitter now, which that's ridiculous anyway. But now it's hospitals can't function the way they need to. And these corporations, they want to take that from you. Comcast wants to take net neutrality away. Verizon already seen what they can get away with. AT&T has already seen what they can get away with. And we're battling it out in the courts to make sure that it does not get any worse and to try to preserve net neutrality. And the Senate will be voting on that bill. Again, that bill is just a 3-page bill that puts the net neutrality rules that we solidified in 2015 back on the books. And I say solidified because we've had assumed net neutrality since the advent of the internet. We've never seen a post-net neutrality internet. We've not seen it yet. It was just assumed that cable companies were following those rules. Cable companies eventually decided, hey, we don't want to follow those rules, and we don't think the FCC can make us. So they took the FCC to court because there wasn't something solid on the books. There wasn't a Title II designation for the internet. A Title II designation by the FCC assures that the internet is treated like flowing water, like a utility, and upholds net neutrality. We just had kind of like, yeah, you'll follow net neutrality. The FCC wants you to, but the FCC can't make you. That was what we followed since the advent of the internet until 2014. Cable companies took the FCC to court. The cable companies won, but the courts told the FCC, if you designate the internet a Title II, then you can put net neutrality on the books, and it's solid. That's all you have to do. So Tom Wheeler was like, well, I don't know if that's a good idea because I'm a cable lobbyist, but this issue was given a lot of press coverage, and people started yelling. They left so many comments, they crashed the FCC's website. So guess what Barack Obama and Tom Wheeler did at the 11th hour? They did the right thing. They designated the internet a Title II. We got solid net neutrality protections on the books. Donald Trump gets into office. He appoints A.G. Pai, who was initially brought into the fold by Barack Obama, but he was made chair by Donald Trump. And then A.G. Pai reversed net neutrality because he's a big cable lobbyist. And that's what they wanted him to do. That's what they paid him to do. That's what he did. So in a post-net neutrality world, we could face a world where the internet looks like cable television 2.0. Shows like this would not exist. Video of independent media would load slower than video from the corporate media. So they'd be able to homogenize the internet similar to what they did to radio and television. You would have to pay exorbitant costs for faster internet. You would have to pay, you could have packages where you have to pay more to access certain websites. Hey, you want ESPN? That's an extra $20 a month. And firefighters might not be able to communicate as efficiently as they need to fight a fire. And guess what? Hospitals might not be able to transmit information the way they need to. You see how the internet's a utility at this point? You see how it needs to flow? What if phone companies could dictate how fast your phones could go? So if you need to call somebody in a hospital, you can't. It might not go as fast as it needs to. This is why telephones are a designated utility. If I call the White House right now or I call my friend, it's going to go with the same traffic. That's what we need for the internet, and that's what net neutrality assures. And without it, you see the complications that are involved. Now hospitals might not be able to get information as fast as they need to. Follow Fight for the Future on Twitter. Follow Free Press. Follow the Electronic Frontier Foundation. These are the organizations dedicated to protecting and saving net neutrality. Follow the Institute of Local Self-Reliance and MuniNetworks.org. They're committing to getting municipal broadband all across the country. Go to nextcenturycities.org. And I'm trying to get more involved myself. I mean, you guys know that I'm trying to get municipal broadband here in my community in Pasadena. I'm using my playlist on YouTube as an information service to try to get people resources to try to build a municipal broadband project in their community as well. But it's been an uphill battle. I only have so many hours to dedicate to it. And I've thought about a couple different things. I've fancied the idea of starting a nonprofit dedicated to this cause, and kind of meshing what I'm doing now in with that nonprofit, using this show to be an information vehicle for these issues, while also, doing more kind of grassrootsy, boots on the ground type stuff for this cause. So we'll see. That's a long endeavor. I don't know all the ins and outs of starting a nonprofit. I've read a little bit. I need to read a little more. And by little, I mean a lot. But it is something I'm looking into. If you're an expert in that type of thing and you know what you're doing and this sounds like something you'd be interested in, please don't hesitate to email me, ronplacone.com. Drop me an email. And there's your net neutrality update for the week. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. Get your news on with Ron. Don't you want to know what's going on? We're getting our news on today. You can tweet me an article at Ron Placone. We'll go through it together and make it our own. Get your